Walking to 30th Street. Here goes SEPTA. Going to the Trolley Museum today. Hopefully it's alright. Oh boy, did I not know what was going to happen next. Basically, I didn't record this part because I was stressed out. I ran down the steps to catch my regional to go to Baltimore, and I got on the train on the same platform that my regional was boarding on, except the other track. So I got on a Keystone, and when I walked in the Amfleet, I saw that the seats were backwards. I was like, strange. They must have Keystone equipment on a regional. And I was like, oh, no, it turns out I was just stupid. Because the second the conductor got on the intercom and was like, oh, this is Keystone blah, blah, blah to New York City. And I was like, oh no. And I immediately started packing my stuff. But like within that like 15 seconds of the conductor saying something, I heard the air brakes come off and I was like, no. And so I was going to Trenton. Eventually I got back to 30th Street, and eventually I changed my ticket and ended up on an Acela, which was kind of ironic because I actually needed some B-roll of Acelas because that's what the next video is about. Yeah, so the next video is on the Acela, and it's been kind of delayed, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So my videos heavily suffer from something called scope creep. Basically meaning your original idea, you have a whole thing written out for it, but then as you do the thing, you need to keep adding more and more and more and more, and so it becomes a problem. And as social media kind of forces you to try to post more often, which I'm trying to do, it becomes a problem for me because when I write a script, and the script becomes very jumbled with all this extra information that I didn't intend to be in the original episode, it grows in scope because I don't want to be wrong about something, and if something is like legitimately funny or there's like an extra little bit that I want to add, then like I want to spend time on that. I don't want to rush it out if I don't have to. And at the end of the day, the algorithm just kind of forces you to post stuff, and unfortunately most people don't care about that witty niche joke that you kind of sneak in there that only a few people would get. But there are the few people that do like it, and I like them because I find it very appealing to sort of... I find niche humor is the best humor, unfortunately, but only so many few people will actually get the niche humor. Anyway, I need to figure out a better workflow because my current workflow isn't perfect to say the least, and part of the problem with that is that I love to finish projects under stress, and I love to finish projects like super late at night, which is not good. I'm actually doing this video at like 11:30 p.m. I think. Part of this also goes into the fact that I think recently, or at least because of some friends I've had within the last year, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, or have had it for obviously a very long time, but have just been kind of coping with it, or knew how to cope with it before this. It's just becoming more obvious now that all my content is online, and I sort of have my own, I guess, self-employed job, because like normal jobs you can sort of get around it, but self-employed jobs it becomes insanely obvious. I'm very grateful to be doing what I'm doing with YouTube and sort of contract editing at the moment, but it is very frustrating when you have ADHD and you kind of self-assess yourself all the time and how to fix yourself all the time. Anyway, we're finally at the Trolley Museum. The Baltimore Trolley Museum is definitely one of my favorite museums in the Northeast. They're very cool with kind of anything as long as you're being safe and as long as you're being respectful to their equipment. I totally recommend visiting whenever they have an open house. We were lucky to go during a day where they were allowing us to drive some of the trolleys for a low fee. This thing was kind of funny. This is an old sweeper car they have there. I kept calling it the doohickey or the thingamabob. It just looks strange. It gets even funnier because the resistor grids for shifting gears, I say in quotations, are inside the vehicle, like next to the driver, so they get pretty hot. Because it was a visitor or special weekend, we got to see inside the car barn, and they gave us a whole sort of tour of it, which was kind of neat, so I'll be showing that in the background. To talk more about future projects, I do have a really big project I'm trying to complete by maybe mid to late fall, which is the Nationalization video. This one's going to be slightly different than anything I've done in the past. It's going to have mainly me talking in front of a camera and then cutaway when we need to, and a lot of skits and a lot of pre-storyboarded things. We're going to spend a ton of time on this because obviously if we're going to do a video that's kind of the mantra of the channel itself, we have to put a lot of work into it. I'm going to have a ton of friends and artists that all work on this too, a ton of concept art and things that will come out of this that honestly people can use in general just to promote the idea. But this is going to be larger than the channel itself sort of thing. But I'm sort of hyping this up because it's one of those things where I have to work on it in the background behind other videos while I work on other videos, because it's not going to pay the bills until it's out. And even then, I'm probably going to spend more money on this than I'm ever going to make back on it. And back to the Trolley Museum. In this video, you'll see a bunch of my friends are there. I was lucky to have them around for the weekend because they were the ones that invited me in the first place. You might recognize a face or two from Twitter, like Jeremy Zorek, but other than that, yeah, a bunch of friends are from the Discord or from Twitter, various amount of places. Either way, they're a bunch of nerds and I love them. Despite the Dork Patrol, I had a lot of fun, and we were able to actually drive some trolleys, which was a ton of fun. Also, if you're wondering what this is all filmed on, it's a mixture of my phone and two cameras. The two cameras being an Fujifilm X-T5, which I spent way too fucking much money on, and the Nikon P1000, which is the most goofy camera I have ever owned in my entire life. But you can get some really funny shots with it, and these shots right here are with the P1000, because you can just zoom in like that. Otherwise, I have one more big thing to talk about, / announce, / just kind of throw the idea out there. I've wanted to do some big urban planning transit nerd gathering of some sort for a while since I've basically started this channel. I've thought about it. The hard thing is knowing what should we do, because there's a lot of different ideas out there. I threw out the ideas on Twitter but the two ones I'm thinking of mainly are a festival at some kind of museum or in a very cool location, which might last like a day or two. And then the other thing is some sort of gala or awards show type event, where we'd host that in like a museum or some very like grand place that has some value in transit or city something of some sort. But it's going to obviously be very transit accessible, and even if it's not, say it's the Illinois Railway Museum, we would have like charter buses or try to figure something out. But you should let me know what you think is interesting, because there's a lot of ideas out there, and I would love to see a lot of y'all in person, because it's, like I said, this is a lonely job, and it's nice to see people and engage with people that you only see comments and profile picture faces of. I'm leaning more on the Gala type idea, but I'm open to a lot of things, and I'm open to a lot of event spaces too. Like I'm thinking of the B&O Museum, for example, because it's very like grand space, but also very easy space to get to for the most part in Baltimore. But yeah, if there's any event owners out there, space owners that are interested in transit stuff, let me know. Anyway, here we are on a trolley race, or they were trying to just run these two trolleys next to each other. These two trolleys are kind of brethren of each other. One is an open side trolley and the other is a closed side, but they were both made at the same time. Also, you can see the speed holes on the side of that one. That's the one they're trying to restore, and they were having sort of a fundraiser during this event for that one. But back now to the futuristic PCC, which these things, it's such the huge leap in technology to go from the wooden ones of the early 1900s to the late 30s and 40s PCCs. It shows the like staggering amount of material science like advancements during that time. Because these things are way more modern than the wooden ones, and they work so much better and more functionally like a normal trolley or tram we'd think of today. Either way, very cool that the museum has all these examples to show off. After we visited the museum, one of the main streets in Baltimore was closed off for a festival happening that weekend, which was pretty cool. I got to see some street vendors. I got to get some gluten-free cookies, which was great, because gluten-free baked goods are like gold to me. Generally a great atmosphere and always nice to see some streets closed down. The main thing that I always am surprised about with Baltimore is it's kind of like Philadelphia, but a lot more impoverished and like underinvested in. I'm always surprised to see the fantastic brick buildings in Baltimore and all these cool architectural, like different buildings that like many of the Sunbelt cities would kill for in Baltimore, kind of just left to rot. It's definitely the one place I would hope in the Northeast is going to come back very soon. If I had any real estate suggestions, I'd tell you to look at Baltimore, because honestly, there's some cheap places there that I guarantee are going to go up in value in the next 10 years. Look at this machine animation. We also rode the metro and some of the light rail lines while we were visiting. It's just mind-blowing to me that there's a city with this density and this kind of urban core that has great, fantastic bones, but it's just underserved from the state and federal powers. And it's in the Northeast Corridor, so not only does it have like some transit, it's connected to the larger regional transit, which is Amtrak and MARC. American cities in general, it always blows my mind that we have this infrastructure and great kind of bones for a city, and instead of investing in the city with good bones, we don't, because of racism, and we then invest in something like Houston or some Sunbelt city that just has terrible planning. And it blows my mind. We waste so much money on very stupid things. I think Baltimore is a fantastic city that's had a lot of things against it politically and systematically, but I truly root for these places because they are the future of the country. We can't keep investing in the places that are unsustainable, like Florida's sprawl. It's impossible. A lot of people will have to move back to a lot of these Rust Belt places that have good bones. It's just a matter of time and what will actually be the driving force of it, economic or climate change or both. Either way, I hope to see these places very invested in. I enjoyed my trip to Baltimore, and I enjoyed seeing a lot of my friends. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.